everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Yeji, like yay G, and my channel is all about saving money while traveling because let's be real, traveling can get really expensive. So if you don't have to spend any money, why would you, right? And if that sounds interesting to you, let's be internet besties and consider subscribing below, and let's get into today's video. But actually, before we get into the video today, I wanted to say Happy New Year! Yay! 2026! I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas and New Year's, spending with friends and family and loved ones. And I hope 2026 bring many blessings to you guys. And for today's video, I wanted to talk about how my family and I saved over $8,000 on a trip to Colombia over the New Year's. So sometimes over New Year's prices can get really expensive, but thankfully with points, you don't have to spend all that money to go traveling. And that's why I love this game and I love collecting points and miles because it allows you to travel without really having to spend too much money, like $8,000, you know? So we flew from Miami to Bogota on Emirates. And now you're wondering like, okay, why Emirates? Like who knew Emirates flew all the way to Bogota from the US, right? Without going to Dubai. Well, that's because Emirates has fifth freedom flights. A fifth freedom flight is when an airline flies between two foreign countries that doesn't touch its like home base country, but it does connect to its home country. I don't know if that makes sense. So pretty much in this instance, Emirates will fly from Miami to Bogota to Dubai. So Emirates has three routes that leave the US, and those are JFK to Milan, Newark to Athens, and Miami to Bogota. And I don't know about you, but whenever possible, I try to fly Emirates or any of the Arab airlines just because they're a bit nicer, you know, than a lot of other airlines. And that's just a personal preference. But also because it's a fifth freedom flight, Emirates doesn't charge as much, whether it's like cash or points, compared to flights that hit Dubai. We paid 195,000 Emirates miles, and I purchased this directly from Emirates to fly round trip from Miami to Bogota and then Bogota back to Miami. I know you can also book this using Air Canada miles, but Air Canada charges a lot more, and they actually charge 71,400 per person. So it ended up being like over 200,000 miles if I had to book through Air Canada. Whereas Emirates, if you're flying with a child, they actually do discount the flight for the child, which is really nice instead of paying for a full like adult fare, which technically if you're taking a seat, then you know, it's the price of an adult, you know. But it's nice that Emirates doesn't charge that amount, and therefore we only paid 195,000 miles, which I think is a really good deal. Now, if I had to pay this in cash, it would have cost us over $4,000 to fly this round trip. And we actually stayed a few nights in Bogota, and we stayed at the JW. With JW, we used the free night hotel certificates. We had 3 of those in our account, and so we decided to use all 3 of them. The total amount was 115,000 points, and we only spent 10,000 extra points. And the cheapest cash rate was $1,350. So I would much rather use the free night certificates any day over having to pay $1,350 for 3 nights at a hotel. And once again, this is amazing because the free night certificates are issued by $95 credit cards. I would much rather pay the annual fee of those 3 cards than be paying $1,350 for 3 nights. And remember, this rate is like a member rate. If you had to pay like a regular rate, it would be much more expensive. So if you're not a member, then you need to go sign up for a Marriott card because I find Marriott hotels to be like super useful, like worldwide. You can pretty much find a hotel anywhere. And that's why Marriott is actually one of my favorite hotel chains out there. I did do an in-depth review of Marriott Hotel. If you guys are interested in that video, I'll link it up above for you guys to go check it out. And according to the points guy, it's better we spent points over cash for this hotel stay. We saved $545 by using points, which I try to calculate for every trip that we take just to make sure you're maximizing your points, you know, because there's some people out there that would much rather use cash and save their points for like a better property or like a more expensive property, you know. So I'll leave the link for the points guide down below so you guys can go calculate whatever trip that you take. I think it's just important to know, you know, have a knowledge and then decide whether you want to use cash or points. The rooms at the JW, I want to say, is a little bit dated, but really it's not that bad. If you compare it to like airport hotels in the US, like it's not bad at all. Like it's heavenly, you know? It was just the rooms that felt a little bit dated. Like the exterior was fine, like they had amazing restaurants, like the lobby was still like amazing looking. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still a JW, so you're gonna expect that level of service. And at the time, we were platinum. We were just turning titanium after the stay in Bogota. But even with a regular just platinum that you can get pretty much from like the Brilliant card, right? It's like really not that big of a deal. We got upgraded to a suite. I don't know if it's because, you know, they didn't have that many guests at the time, but regardless, with a platinum, you can still get upgraded. I mean, of course, your mileage is gonna differ, but that's just something that happened to us. After 3 nights in Bogota, we flew over to Medellin for another 3 nights, and this trip happened because we had a wedding to attend in Medellin, and we're like, okay, let's just make a trip out of it because neither my husband and I ever been to Colombia, and we thought this was just a perfect excuse, you know? But from Bogota to Medellin, we decided to take a domestic airline, so we flew Avianca, and we actually transferred City points over to Avianca because at the time of booking, City was having a promotion. So for every 1,000 transferred over, you'd get 1,250 miles instead, which is amazing to save a little bit of points there. And the flight was super affordable. It was only 2,800 miles. Guys, 2,800, like that's crazy. One way per person. So it cost us 16,800 miles for a round trip flight. Now the cash rate of that would have been over $670 just for like an hour flight for 3 people round trip. Now we booked directly with Avianca, but you can also book this flight through Air Canada. However, Air Canada charges so much more. So Air Canada charges 10,000 miles per person versus if you book directly with Avianca, it's only 2,800. I mean, 2,800, like that's just so crazy cheap. So once again, I'm just thankful that points allow you to travel like this because I do not want to be dishing out over $600 for a round trip flight that's only like an hour away. And at Medellin, we stayed at the Marriott for 3 nights. And the 3 nights we booked with Marriott points, and it cost us 132,000 points. And the cheapest cash rate, which ended up being the business rate that they charged. So if you do have an Amex business card, the business rate will show up on your account when you do make the booking, you know, so you can choose what type of rate that you want to purchase. And just at the time, it was the business rate. It would have cost us $1,310 for the 3 nights. And I don't know about you, but I'm just not a type of person that is willing to dish out over $1,300 at a 3 nights at just a typical Marriott hotel. I just am a type of person that don't want to be spending cash. If I have the option to spend points, I'm always going to spend points over cash and save that cash for just something better. And I'm normally not like a cheap person. Like you ask my husband, he thinks I shop too much, but I am frugal when it comes to hotels just because, you know, like there's options out there like points for instance. So why would you be spending cash? Right? So according to the points guide, it's better to spend points over cash, and that's what we did. We spent points instead and saved $386 for this stay. And I calculate this every trip. But even if the points guy said that it's better off for me to spend cash than use points, I'm a type of person that would still use points over cash because I see points as like a reward. And I probably should have prefaced this before like talking about the trip to Colombia, but we're actually based in DFW, so we did have to fly from DFW to Miami and then back. So when we fly in and out internationally like this, we always like to stay a night like at an airport hotel just to make sure that we're like safe and can catch the flight the next day, because sometimes cancellations happen, delays happen, and you don't want to be missing any international flight. That's just a huge no-no for us. So we always like to spend the night before. We stayed at Holiday Inn Express East, and with this hotel we used the IHG hotel certificate, and we did have to pay an extra 7,000 points on top of that for this room, but the cheapest cash rate at the time was $222. Now this location is like a prime example of knowing when to use points for cash. So if we used our full like IHG points, we would have had to pay 110,000 points for a night. Now because we had the free night certificate, we only ended up paying 7,000 points, right? But But if you paid the full 110,000 points, you're actually better off just paying cash rate for that room than spending your points. But once again, because we only paid 7,000, I was okay spending the points because with a hotel free night certificate, usually those expire. So if you don't use it, you're kind of like wasting it. Not kind of, you are wasting it. So it's better off to spend that and pay extra for points than just letting it go to waste, you know? And when we landed back in Miami, we stayed at the Sheraton, and the Sheraton at the time, it was 34,000 points to spend a night, and the cheapest cash rate at the time for that was $247. And we also used a free night certificate for that, and I know free night certificate is like $35K and the hotel room was $34K, but once again, it's a free night certificate. If you don't use it, it expires. But at least I got as close as possible to 35K. Like if I lose 10K, it's really not a big deal for me. Now, I would never book a hotel that costs like 12,500 or something like that, for instance, you know? Like then I'd be like, yeah, you're wasting your free night certificate, right? But if it's only like 10K, 20K, whatever, then honestly, I think it's not that big of a deal to be spending your free night certificates. Now, once again, if we had to pay the whole trip in cash, it would have cost us over 8 grand, guys. 8 grand for 3 people for a week. And remember, I did not include the flights from DFW to Miami because I used my American Airlines points and I already had points that way anyway. So I was like, yeah, let me not include that because over New Year's, I checked the prices. OMG, it was crazy. Like literally $600 per person for like a one-way flight from like Miami back to DFW. I was like, yeah, no, that's crazy. So I didn't include that. But if I did include all of this, then that 8,000 would have been a lot more expensive. It would be close to like 10 grand, no kidding. And a 10 grand vacation to Colombia, like no, that is not happening if we had to pay it in cash. And therefore, once again, I'm very thankful that points exist, you know, and gives us freedom to travel like this. And like I said, I kind of see this as a reward, like from everyday spending, you know, like whether it's groceries or gas or whatever that you need to spend money on, make sure to use a credit card and get points. That way, these trips are attainable for like anyone pretty much. And I always love talking about saving money while traveling. I mean, that's what this channel is all about, but also like the difference in prices is just crazy to me. But anyway, once again, I hope you guys found today's video helpful and informative. If you guys have any other questions or comments, please leave them down below, and I'll see you guys next time with a different video. Bye!